All right, really quick, I want to show you this clip. Only a few minutes of it, although I suggest that you listen to the whole thing. It's great. And in light of just all the craziness going on, uh, I feel like it hits the nail on the head, and I have a few thoughts afterward.
Now the third commandment is, Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Now, when I was a little fellow, I used to think that means don't swear, don't cuss, don't profane, but it means a lot more than that. This is the commandment the American founding fathers used as the keystone to our Judeo-Christian society. If you want to see it in operation, go into any court in the land, and there you'll find the judge, the jury, and the witnesses all functioning under the sanctity of a sacred oath. For example, the witnesses say, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. And the voice of God echoes in the background, Thou shalt not take this oath in vain. The founding fathers knew that if a witness took the sacred oath and then lied or alibied to avoid the consequences of truth, that witness would one day face his Creator in a court of divine justice. Of course, in the beginning, taking an oath was no problem to a communist. You ask a communist, will you take an oath? Certainly. Raise your right hand? Yes. Right hand, left hand, both hands. Will you swear on the Bible? Sure. Bible, ladies' home journal, anything you have handy. But the communists soon discovered that if they took that sacred oath, which the founding fathers put into our judicial process and in our covenant society, and then lied, it was a serious crime. We call it perjury. And this is what happened to Alger Hiss. He was sentenced to 5 years in a federal prison because he took the sacred oath and then lied by denying he had stolen government documents for the Soviet Union. The founding fathers said we were born with certain unalienable rights. Where did these come from? They said not from the government. They came from God when we were born. And we were also born, they felt, with certain unalienable responsibilities, under covenant to God to fulfill those responsibilities. Therefore, the third commandment was used by the founding fathers to undergird all of our American institutions. We were made what has come to be called a covenant society. Every important government official is put under oath to perform his office with integrity and with God's help. The president takes that oath, governors take it, mayors take it, policemen take it, and so do members of the armed forces. Why, even the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court takes it. And God says, Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Now our task is to live up to that commandment. Believe me, if each American exerted himself to honor every sacred promise made in the name of deity, our courts would provide 100 times more justice, our business life would be profoundly more honest, and the administration of government would be magnificently efficient. But even so, to the extent we do fulfill our sacred oaths, to that extent we add strength to our society.
All right. So he's talking about honesty as the foundation for not just our personal or interpersonal relationships, but by the foundation for which a society can flourish, right? And I like that he talks about how the founding fathers, at the very center of it, was that their integrity and their honesty was at the core of how they are able to, have a functioning society and to govern within that society. And I've heard all sorts of stories of throughout history when a person's oath meant a lot more than perhaps it does now. It sure feels that, in the time we're in right now, especially with the media and just even interpersonal relationships and things, that a person's word might not mean what it might have meant to some people in days past. And I wonder what, when you think about honesty and maybe more importantly, the cost of dishonesty, you can see how one who maybe lives with an atheistic sort of worldview, how the cost of dishonesty would be different than somebody like these founding fathers or people who took oaths in the past, even things like the Hippocratic Oath, which I think they invoked Apollo in Greece. Uh, uh, like the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm, they they would kind of invoke or whatever they would promise that to Apollo or whatever, and so breaking that promise, the cost of that was more than just financial burdens or even just going to jail for malpractice or of course the cost on the victim if something terrible happened. It was a more spiritual sort of cost. Uh, even now, even though they don't really invoke maybe God in the Hippocratic Oath, I don't believe they do for swearing into office. But some people might see that as symbolic, and if you don't have that foundation that you are also, or how should I put it, that the cost of that is more than just what happens here, but that you may have to answer for those things, I think it sort of changes things. And man, what would a world be like if everybody kind of had honesty as a sacred value, not just a value that, not just something that we are told to do, but if there was actually a sacred responsibility for that. I know in members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we believe in one day living being as a Zion people and living in Zion, and certainly at the foundation where you see all these different utopian visions and methods of how to get to the utopian vision, and we see revolutions and we see spread of financial wealth and power and this, but certainly at the basis of any utopian or true utopian society, certainly honesty would have to be at the very foundation of that thing or of that idea. There are some, let's see, Judges 11. This is an interesting story. This came to mind. There are all sorts of different oaths in the Bible. I'll go through a couple of them, but there's this Jephthah, however you pronounce that, Jephthah. I'll just call him Jeff. They're going through all these wars. There's the Ammonites, and he makes a vow to the Lord. And I think this goes towards, don't make these vows in vain. Don't take the Lord's name in vain. And I always thought, growing up, kind of like Cleon Skousen suggests here, that it was about not swearing and that sort of thing, but it's something more than that. And it's expressed here where he makes this vow to the Lord, as stated in 30. If thou shalt without fail deliver the children of Ammon into mine hands, then it shall be whatsoever cometh forth of the doors of my house to meet me, like the first thing I see at my house when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, shall surely be the Lord's. I will offer it up for a burnt offering. So Jeff passed over the children of Ammon to fight against them, and the Lord delivered them into his hands. He goes back, and he came to Mizpeh, however you pronounce that, unto his house, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and the dances, and she was his only child. Beside her, he had neither son nor daughter, and he sacrifices his daughter, and it's not something that, this is more like a cautionary tale of the devastating consequences of making such a a vow without careful thought. And certainly it wouldn't have been demanded by the Lord, but he did that, and he can't go back. That was how he viewed his vow to God. That's how important he saw that, even though it was like a crazy thing that he did. We see a similar decree with King Saul, where I think before the Philistines are going to be defeated, they're not going to eat honey. No, they're not going to. I can't remember if it's specifically honey, but his son Jonathan goes and eats honey, not really knowing. And because he does this, and the Philistines aren't defeated yet, he's put to death. And because that was his word. And it kind of reminds you of Daniel being sent to the lion's den because of the king's decree. And interesting, like even in non-biblical circumstances, there's this Marcus Regulus some Roman guy who he was captured, I believe, in Carthage, and to negotiate this peace treaty, he's sent to Rome, and if the peace treaty fails, he's supposed to come back to be tortured to death and whatever. So he goes, the senators basically deny the peace treaty, and he, true to his word, he goes back, and he's going back to his death, when it's so odd to us, I think now, like, why would he do that? Like, if he knows he's going to death, but how is his word so important at that time? And I mean, these are like crazy, like, examples of that, but I think it underlies the importance of a person's integrity and their honesty, because certainly at some points they are appealing more to just what can happen to them there, but they are, they feel answerable to a higher power. And I just wonder, how would life look if we also appealed to a higher power with all of the things that we thought? And even if not that, like it feels like dishonesty has a corrosive effect, even if you're not dealing with a higher power. But of all things to be brought back as a sacred virtue, it seems like that should certainly be at the basis of it. And lying under oath and perjury, and you see the things that are happening now. There's just lies being said, and I don't want to point certain fingers, but you see like things in the media, you see things in politics, you see things at work, you see things even within families, and how corrosive that could be. And even the little things, the cost of those little lies, it just totally damages, like it has such a corrosive effect. And I think certainly we are not going to have that Zion people until we get our dishonesty under control. And that goes for me, that goes for, everyone. And this isn't meant to be preachy, but it's just interesting to see how and like in Cleon Skousen is pointing directly towards like the atheistic society and communism and things like that. But I think it holds true even for people who say they are, Christian or Muslim or whatever, Jewish. That honesty again becomes something of almost like a non-negotiable within a person's very being. And I wanted to bring that up. I haven't had a chance to talk to you guys for a while, but as I was listening to this here, I thought, man, and in light of the election coming up and things like that, like it's more than just the judicial system. It's in military oaths. They take oaths to defend within the military, even at the cost of their own lives. And Obviously this isn't always done perfectly, but honesty, I don't know where honesty has gone and what the main culprit is, but I certainly think the ends don't justify the means when it comes to dishonesty in a number of different areas. And I certainly agree that in an atheistic society, when you don't appeal to a higher power, it would probably be easier to disregard our honesty if it meant you could get ahead, or there was no sort of reckoning for that sort of thing. But anyway, wanted to talk to you guys quick, and I'll leave that there. Maybe I have some other ideas for things in the future, but like things are super busy right now in a number of ways. And I hope you guys are well, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.